Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Hump Day edition of Today in Sports Betting. Scott, it's a kind of a light card today on Wednesday. The World Series ended yesterday in Game 6. No football, no baseball, no basketball. What's up, buddy?
You got some soccer, and you had some tennis at 5 a.m. this morning, if that counts.
Oh, I always have tennis at 5 a.m. I'm up playing every day at 5 a.m., as you might have guessed.
Mm-hmm. I did hear that about you somewhere.
Not buying it. So we're going to do something, Scott, that we do about once a year. We're going to do a show on politics. We're going to talk
Once a
about
year.
it. Huh?
We do this once a year?
You try to do it about once a year, yeah. Well, once every 2 years because you have midterms, so.
I was going to say once a year doesn't sound right, but okay, that's fine with me.
Yeah, it's we're going to talk about the presidential election. We're going to talk about where the value is. It's not going to be a political show where we air our grievances and talk about our views. There's everywhere else in the world for that. There's every other Facebook post for that. So we're not going to get into politics itself. We're going to get into politics from the betting angle only. So as always, we want to see comments, but we don't want to see comments about this guy sucks or that guy sucks or here's why. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in a political argument. We're just talking about it from a betting perspective. So if you drop,
we're looking at some line movements, stuff like that, what we can expect to see in terms of movement over the next week or so. Stuff
a lot like we do on the games. It's going to be a very similar situation. We're 6 days away from the election, so there's some value to be had. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. First, Scott, World Series yesterday didn't go the way that I anticipated. I thought there would be more runs scored. Rays had a couple shots there at Gonsolin early.
You thought Gonsolin was going 3 innings. I said he'd probably go 1 2/3, and he went exactly 1 2/3.
Well, he got hammered. So
correct, because he's not very good.
I think he absolutely would have gone 3. And it had to be everything had to be right for him to go 3. I wasn't going to
correct. I'm just acknowledging that Gonsolin might be good in the regular season. He's not very good.
Well, here's the deal. If they would have scored more, if they'd have put 3 up against him in the first, I think we would have seen a different set of relievers coming out of that LA pen. And that's kind of what I was counting on. I was counting on them for him to do a little more damage against him. Kind of see the B team coming out of the pen, but
what a good job by the bullpen.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job of keeping the Rays in check.
8 innings, no runs, so not much more you can ask for.
Yep, no, that's really all you can do right there. Second player up. You might have heard of this guy as Rosarena hit a home run, Oppo, which did make me at least push for the night because I had a first run in the first inning. Had a nice price on it, but that was really about the last sniff I had of getting anywhere close to winning a bet. And so Scott, I know you cashed a little ticket there on the Dodgers. That was a good thing, right?
Yeah, I had no action on the game because the only action I had was Dodgers minus 1.5 games in the series. So I basically had Dodgers money line at minus 110. I saw Snell was dealing, and I even posted on Twitter. I feel like it's only fitting. I think it's word for word. I said in the middle of I believe it was the 5th inning, I said, quote, I think it's only fitting if Snell gets pulled early and the Rays bullpen blows it. I think I posted that in the middle of the 5th inning. Because my logic in my head was, what would Dave Roberts do in this situation that would blow his team the game? And Cash read my mind because he pulled Snell at 73 pitches on a leadoff single before facing Betts, who I know is a great hitter, but he struck out twice in the first 2 at-bats he had in the game. And it's just like, all right, they're bringing in Anderson. And I'm like, you mean the guy who gave up a run his last 6 appearances? Sure. As soon as he came in, I'm thinking, the Dodgers are going to win this game. Immediate double down the line by Betts. Then Betts, who I've continued to preach as being the best base runner in the entire league, ends up going home. I know Choi threw home. He had no chance. He should have just taken the out of first base. But either way, at that point, it was a wrap. Betts had the clincher there and the home run in the 8th. But bringing Anderson?
Yeah.
How does Castillo not see the field in an elimination game?
Yeah, it was
Isn't Castillo arguably their best reliever? I know that Loop was very good during the series. Fairbanks was hit or miss. But Anderson was useless. And I thought Castillo has been really good throughout the entire playoffs. And they're just like, oh, no, we're going to Anderson. I'm like, he's been good in like 3 weeks.
I guess he was saving Castillo for the back end.
You know? I didn't get the back end of what? the team had a 1-0 lead. I don't really know what you were saving him for.
I understand. I get it. It was not a great decision. The bottom line is, though, you're going to have to put up more than 3 runs to beat the Dodgers on most nights, and that was the case last night. So you want to
I
talk
forgot
about
the Dodgers even scored 3 runs.
you talk about Kevin Cash making a bad decision. He absolutely did.
It
However,
was terrible, but people also forget that Hinch did the same thing with Greinke in Game 7 last year.
yep.
And nobody talks about it. But at the end of the day, the Rays need to score more than 1 run, particularly from their best player. And that was the reason why I took the Dodgers in the series minus 1.5 games. I said, besides for Arozarena and a little bit of Choi early on in the playoffs, and maybe a little bit of Adames and Margot occasionally,
Lau
it
had a
was mostly a one-man band.
Yeah, Lau ran into a couple, but yeah, it was.
It was a one-man band. Kiermaier woke up a little bit more than I thought he would, even though
Yep.
he didn't get on base much. He just had a couple home runs. But besides Arozarena, they had nothing. And the Dodgers, even when Betts was struggling for a couple of games there, Bellinger was awful for the entire series besides the home run in Game 1.
Yep.
It didn't matter because you had Seager, Muncy, Turner, Smith, everybody. They just showed up. And then Turner got COVID in the middle of the game and then came back out for the celebration with no
I don't even know.
And I thought Manfred was drunk. I kind of wish I was drinking whenever he was because I don't know what was going on with Manfred when he was announcing the MVP award.
I didn't watch any of that. So.
He was hammered. Like, I wouldn't trust him driving home from the stadium. Like, it did not look good. But
all right, very good.
You can look it up on Twitter. It's actually kind of funny if you want to listen to that.
Take a look. All right, so there you go. That's our that's a baseball season, Scott. And you know what? They pulled it off. I didn't think they would. I thought they'd have to shut it down in the middle. So they were after kind of a rocky start. They did a great job with baseball and COVID. So there's a baseball season, 60 games, world champion, and I think the best team, 60 games, 160 games, 314 games. I don't care what you play. I think the best team won the World Series. So
yeah, give props to Tampa for getting that far.
Yep.
They used a specific analytical approach, which completely backfired in the biggest moment. But either way, with a payroll differential that huge, you win 2 games. I don't say there was a moral victory, but at least they hung tough.
All right, so let's talk about something that's more important than the World Series to a lot of people, less important than the World Series to a lot of people. It is the
golf.
Golf. Yes, we're going to talk about a tradition. It's a tradition like no other, Scott.
Yep.
It is the U.S. election, and seems to be a lot of enthusiasm on both sides for this election coming up. The early vote,
enthusiasm, polarization, however you want to phrase it.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of polarization, but I think both sides are fired up for their guy. I do. I really do. We've got over 60 million early votes as of Monday. So that's pretty unbelievable right there. They're projecting it should be somewhere between 90 and 100 million people will have voted before the polls actually open a week from yesterday on Tuesday. So the first thing I'm looking at, Scott, is you've got a couple of props here as far as the number of bets go. 149.5 million is the total, is the over under, and it is heavily juiced to the over. I think it's worth paying that juice at minus 225. 139 million voted in 2016. By every indication, this is going to be a much, much larger turnout. I think that's as close to a lock as you're going to get in this whole thing, over 149.5 million at minus 225. Now, if you want to play a little bit less juice than that, you can play over 60.5% of eligible. It's not eligible. It's eligible voters. It's eligible adults. It's VAP, voting age people. It's not people who are actually eligible to vote. So it's kind of a weird thing because you've got few million people that are felons. You've got a few people that are not eligible to vote in that group. So it comes out 60.5% comes out to 155 million basically. And that's going to be an interesting total. I think that total may have some value if you wanted to play the under. It's minus 150 for the over. The under on that one, I think, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about plus 110, plus 120.
So I'm looking at some recent elections just for comparisons.
Okay.
2016, you had 138 million, almost 139 million votes,
right.
Which was the equivalent of 55.5% of the turnout. Year before that, 129 million. Year before that, 131 million. So it's usually hovering around the, I'd say, mid to low 130 range.
Right.
However, Now you have COVID and the mail and all the people who want to do it remotely for voting. You also have just people who are extremely passionate about the two candidates, etc.
Right.
I got to lean over as well. I think that you should see, especially with the people who have been promoting people going to the polls for. I know usually you see a boost in commercials telling people to vote maybe a month before the polls. How long has it been? Like 3-4 months?
There's never been a vote. There's never been a get out the vote drive like this.
I don't think there has been, at least in terms of longevity.
Yeah. Oh no. It's been sustained. You see it on social media. You see it on text on your phone. You see it in weird places. Commercials on TV. Everybody wants you to get out the vote. And kind of a harbinger of perhaps things to come is 2018, the midterm elections. That was the highest voter turnout percentage in over a century. So say what you want about President Trump. He brings out people on both sides. He definitely inspires passion among his supporters. He definitely inspires passion among the people that do not support him. So
I'm assuming we're both leaning to the over in both turnout and voters.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm locked into over 149.5, and I'm probably a 70-30 on over 60.5%.
I think that number will be close because they are anticipating a jump. You haven't had 60+% since 1968.
Right.
So it's a while. Usually the highest number he gets around 55. There was 57% in 2008, 55.5 in 2016. I think if you're going to win that, it will be by the skin of your teeth. I think you'll probably finish around 60.5.
Yeah, that's 60.5 is a good number. Like I said, with that juice to the over like that, there may be a little value to the under there. Although, it's like playing an under with the Falcons or something like that. You're going to white knuckle it all the way through. There's going to be no easy wins there. I had something I was gonna say, and
well, we can go into the actual general election, or if we can go to just some overall, just general stuff if you want.
Oh no, I had one more thought on the total there, and I can't think what it was, but it may come back to me.
Life's too short to bet the under.
Oh, it was about actually, it was about Americans participating in the vote. The fact that. We're excited about perhaps getting 60% of the people who can vote in America to come out and vote. I think that's pretty shameful.
The bar's been set very low, so
it has. Oh, it absolutely has. I think I think we certainly live in one of the best countries in the world, if not the best country in the world.
I'm not going to speculate as to why you have that many people who don't vote because that's not really the point of this video. I got to assume it's mutual distrust of both big parties.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. Everybody has a myriad of reasons.
Like whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, I think you can agree that your respective party is flawed to some degree. And yeah. I don't think that's a hot take. That's all I'm going to say.
There's no wind driven, but as pure as the wind driven snow amongst either party. So get off your ass and vote. I guess that's what I'm saying. Whatever it takes to do it, go make your voice heard. This is your one opportunity that you get every couple of years to voice your opinion. And go do it. That's what I had to say.
Yeah. All so right. Now that we covered all that, do you want to go through the actual election now?
Yep. Let's take a look at the two candidates. It is Joe Biden, of course, running against the incumbent Donald Trump. As far as the odds go, right now,
odds have kind of I could say that Biden's been favored for a while. But it seems like the lines continually fluctuate almost every other day.
Yes, there is based on what's going on with the media and
usually somewhere in the realm of -170 to maybe -210 on Biden is what I've seen for the last couple of months.
Yep, and right now, as of this video, it is Biden -200, Trump +175. If you're looking to the polls, if you're looking for who has the lead. As of yesterday, Biden was up 7.1 in the Real Clear Politics average, which is kind of the gold standard where they take an amalgam of all the polls put together. And for the first time in a while, there was no polls that showed Trump anywhere ahead. Now, what everybody says, well, in 2016, the polls were wrong. They said Hillary Clinton was going to win. And, we've got the same thing this year. So let me explain a couple of the differences and why things may not quite go the way they did in 2016. Clinton, a week before the election, she was up 2.2. That ended up going up to a 3.2% lead on election day as far as the Real Clear Politics average
Didn't
goes.
she also not visit some of the battleground states like right
Yeah,
before?
she didn't visit Wisconsin. They're kind of doing the same thing again this year, Scott. Although they do have Joe is going to some of the states, but they do.
We also have COVID outbreaks in some of those Midwest states as well.
They're reaching out to these pie in the sky states, Scott. They're reaching out to Georgia. They're reaching out to Texas.
Mhm.
Some people think Texas is in play. So, they're kind of repeating the strategy just a little bit where they spending their last days kind of going for pie in the sky instead of locking down the states where they really, really need it. Clinton, and actually, so the polls, that was kind of my point because everybody said, well, the polls were off. It was wrong. Nate Silver was wrong. They projected Clinton with a 3.2, like I said, that was the average on election day. Ended up winning the popular vote by 2.1 percentage points. Of course, in America, winning the popular vote, that don't mean nothing. That's not where it's at. That's not where it's at. But just for perspective, Scott, Barack Obama in 2012 was never up more than 6 points in the Real Clear Politics average. For the year preceding the election, his largest lead was 6. Right at 6.1 was his largest lead of that year.
So because of that, I'm going to ask a question. I know that's where you're transitioning, but I'm kind of going to jump the gun a little bit.
Okay.
Based on all the projections and how I know if you still don't want to buy into the projections, you don't have to. We're not telling you that you fully should. But based on how far, I'd say, or how much of a lead Biden has based on the projections and the polls, et cetera, doesn't minus 200 seem a little bit too cheap?
Yeah, I think I think there is a little bit of value there, but people have that 2016 in their head, so they're not really believing the polls.
Correct. I'm just saying that I don't remember what Hillary was favored going into the 2016 election.
Well,
but if you're comparing the point differential from both of them, then Biden should be a bigger favorite, correct?
right, and and actually on the buy markets, he is a bigger favorite. He's a 2-to-1 favorite. If you go to predict it, there's a couple of markets like that where they go on a 100-point must system. Where
when you say 2-to-1, you mean a 1-to-2 favorite?
Well, yeah,
like minus 500 or so.
It's basically about 64 cents right now to buy Biden stock.
Okay.
And Trump is around 32 to 34. So,
okay.
And the way that works, obviously, you buy stock in that person, and at the end of the election, somebody's 100 and somebody's 0. So you've either lost everything or you've cashed a nice ticket there. So. I actually had a middle position last year through Predict It, where I got Trump. I bought him at about 38 cents, and then I bought Clinton at about 42 cents. So I had a nice position on each there. So right now, if the chalk holds, Scott,
I'm just asking, what do you think this line should be priced?
Well,
because I think 200 is low based on what it seems like everybody's been saying with projections and stuff like that. Now,
I think it's pretty close. I think you probably could be up somewhere in the 230, 240 range, perhaps.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a bit higher, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not a horrible price, and I'm gonna explain why. So, right now with the Electoral College, you need 270 to win. If the chalk holds, if every state where Biden is favored, if everything comes in exactly as it's projected in the betting market right now, Biden wins 305 to 233. So this election comes down to 5 states. All right, the Democrats will tell you that Florida is still in play. Personally, I don't believe it is, and that's where some of that line movement has gone in the last couple of days.
I just steal all my props that we're going to get into.
Yeah, when you and I first started talking about this, it was pick 'em for Florida. It was minus 115 on each side. As it stands right now, Florida is a minus 145 favorite towards the Republicans. So it seems like the numbers are going to break towards the Republicans for Florida, as it often does. The Florida.
Well, spoiler alert: that was going to be one of my props that I had a thought on.
Was it really?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not gonna say anything about Florida. I'm going to tell you that I think
no. But the point is that you're bringing up Florida to talk about the implications for the actual Electoral College. That's all we're saying. Okay. Anyway, so let's assume for the sake of it, Florida goes to the Republicans.
Right, and that's what we're going to do for this video. So if Florida goes to the Democrats, that changes the perspective. That changes everything, and that means there could be a landslide towards the Democrats.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a wrap if the Democrats win Florida, but his chances of winning definitely, I don't want to say skyrocket, but they get higher.
It's really close. If the Democrats win Florida, Trump's going to be down 2 touchdowns with about 3.5 minutes left.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
It's not impossible, but it certainly could be done. So giving Florida to the Republicans, it really comes down to 5 states. Those states are Arizona, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and, of course, Wisconsin. Trump needs to win any 3 of those. Any 3 of those states, and he is a winner. He cannot get there by winning 2 states because he has to make up 37. All right. So the 2 biggest states he could win would be Michigan and Pennsylvania. Michigan has 16 electoral votes. Pennsylvania has 20, and that would put him at 269. You know who else would be at 269, Scott?
Biden.
Biden would be at 269 as well. There are 2 scenarios for a tie.
You go to overtime, first team to score a touchdown wins.
Yes, it's a fight to the death, Scott.
It's a duel. I believe that's how they used to refer to it back in the 1800s.
Little known fact there towards the back of the Constitution. It actually goes to the House of Representatives, but not in the way you might think. Each state has 1 vote in the House of Representatives, and right now there are more states have Republican majorities than Democrats. So if it went to the House, that would be a Republican victory, most likely, because it is it's voted on by the current makeup of the House. After the new election, they're seated before the president, so it would be the new House of Representatives that would vote on that. So as it stands, looks like it would still be a Republican majority, but it's possible it could be the Democrats could make.
Now, we're not going to assume here that there's going to be a tie at 269. So that's not what we're saying. We're just saying what would happen if that hypothetically.
Correct. Because everybody wants to know what if it's a tie. That's what happens if it's a tie.
So let me ask, you mentioned 5 states and how Trump basically needs to win 3 of them.
Yes.
How many of those do you think he actually wins?
Well,
I think he's very live in Wisconsin.
He's an underdog. He's an underdog in each one of them, and I'll talk about those in just a second.
I think he's live in Wisconsin. That's also because I went there for 4 years, and I feel like he ended up pulling off a massive upset, winning Wisconsin the first time. I don't really see much changing. I know that I ended up going to school in a very liberal area in Madison, where pretty much
Republican Madison.
Madison is basically, I don't know, 99% Democrat. It's up there. There's a lot of. There's really not much Trump support going on in Madison.
It's like Austin sitting in the middle of Texas.
Basically. But then you think to yourself, if you're just surrounded by that one town, it's clearly going to go to the Democrats. And it turns out that all the other areas in Wisconsin are just heavily on Trump.
Right.
So I know that some stuff might sway. I think Trump wins Wisconsin. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know about Pennsylvania, Michigan, and the other ones that have more electoral votes. But I think you'll agree with me that Trump is definitely live in Wisconsin.
I think he's live at every. I think he's live in all these states. I really do.
Do you think he wins Wisconsin? I think he has a serious. I think he has a serious.
Possible.
Yeah.
The other scenario for a tie is if Trump wins Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin together. That is also.
I'm just saying because according to current odds, Wisconsin to go Democrat is roughly minus 325, and Republicans plus 250. That sounds way too high to me.
Now, where'd you find that?
That was on Bet Online.
All right, now that's on Bet Online.
Yeah,
that's what I used.
I scrolled down. There's electoral college votes. It says it's the second to last one. It has Republican for Wisconsin at plus 250. I think that's way too high. I think that should be probably around. I think it could be plus 140.
Did you do that this morning?
No.
Okay. I'm
looking at it right now.
What did I? Yeah, okay. I wrote down something different, Scott. I wrote down a little closer odds. Yeah, I think I had 240, 190. So there's definitely at that price. I think there is absolutely value on Trump plus 250 in Wisconsin.
If the logic of elections is that it mostly comes down to a couple of battleground states, which arguably could go either way, then I can't price any one side in a battleground state at plus 250. That just sounds ridiculous based on principle.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you wanted to play and right now Wisconsin, Real Clear Politics average has Biden up 5.5%. Okay.
Okay.
So, I put this together. Of course, it looks like I had the wrong odds for Wisconsin.
I don't remember what Clinton was up going into that projection stuff in the last election with Wisconsin, but I know that Trump pulled it out.
Now, if you can do it, if you have a site that will allow you to parlay those or play, what I would do is play a 3-team round robin. That's if you have that option. I don't think you're going to have that option in many places, but just for grins, if you played a 3-way parlay on the favorites, which of those 5 states, the ones where Trump has the best odds right now currently are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Arizona. If you were to play those together, that would be plus 920.
Well, I know that BetOnline does not have the parlay option.
Nope, it did not. It did not.
I know offshore 5 dimes used to have some type of parlay options, but that kind of went under. So that's not really relevant anymore, 5 dimes. So if you don't know what happened to them, a lot of money. But that's a separate topic. So, yeah, I don't really know where you can find that. I know 5 dimes used to have that. Maybe I really don't know. Probably something offshore. I doubt any real, I don't want to say legitimate book, but you know what I mean, would have parlay options. But if you can find it, potential value there.
Yep. And if you want to play a long shot parlay with the 3 longest shots, which would be Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, pay you somewhere in the neighborhood of about 24-1. So there could be value there if you think that President Trump is going to make a comeback here in this last week. That's kind of where I would, if you have that parlay option, I would advise taking a look at that. So yeah, that's basically, and here's how right now Arizona is minus 135 plus 105. Biden is currently up 2.4%. Michigan is the one that seems to be getting out of hand right now, Scott. It is currently minus 260 plus 200. Biden's up 9 points. Mm-hmm. North Carolina is pretty much touch and go. It is close to a pick 'em, minus 125, minus 105, and Biden is up 0.7 percentage points.
Were there any states that jumped off the page for you? Because Wisconsin was one of them where I looked at it and just said those odds don't look right.
Yeah, there was a couple that I had as far as.
What do you think Wisconsin should be for Trump? I said around plus 140. Could arguably be higher, maybe plus 160. Plus 250 is absurd.
I think somewhere in the neighborhood of a minus 200 plus 160, 170 should be about.
Yeah, so that's about 80 cents of value, which sounds about right to me.
Pennsylvania, which is the big prize amongst those 5 states, it has 20 electoral votes. They're minus 185 plus 155, and Biden's currently up 3.8. He's up 5.5 in Wisconsin right now, as we talked about earlier. So pick your 3 right there, and it's going to take 3 for a Trump win, and because like I said, they said at 305 right now, you've got to find 35. You've got to find 35 votes. Basically, is what you have to do. So
now, yeah. So the 2 that jumped off for me, which you already touched upon, was Florida at minus 145,
right,
and you have Wisconsin at plus 250. Now, the one other one that jumped out to me, which I kind of want your opinion on, was Georgia. I know a Republican is currently minus 160. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's value on Democrat at plus 130? Because I think there is.
Nope.
No, you think it's just going straight Republican?
I do.
Okay.
I think now we're going to talk about this a little bit. If you're of the opinion that there's a blue wave, quote unquote, coming, if you think there's going to be a big Democratic turnout, they're going to sweep the election. Yes, there's a couple of states where you could find some value. Georgia would be one of those. Another one would be Iowa at plus 145. If you wanted to really dream a little bit, and the Democrats have put a lot of money into this state, Texas is plus 250.
I don't see Texas, but that's just
no, and Texas hasn't voted for a.
Wait, you said Texas for Democrat is plus 250?
Yes, correct.
Do you think that Democrat plus 250 in Texas should be the same odds as Republican in Wisconsin at plus 250? Because I don't see that at all.
Right. No, there's a far better chance for the Republicans to take Wisconsin than there is for the Democrats to take Texas. Now,
yeah, that's how I feel.
In the future, Texas at some point should be turning at least purple or perhaps light blue as the demographics in that state change. But for right now, it would have to take a landslide.
Percentages might get closer, but I do expect in the all or nothing electoral college system, I think the Republicans will take it.
Yes, agreed. So that's Iowa is a state where you might find a little bit of value there. Like I said, Texas, there's not a ton of shot. Those lines are pretty close to where they should be.
I think that these lines are pretty sharp. I know that you mentioned Iowa. I personally think that Iowa should go Republican.
Absolutely.
So I think minus. Then again, you can also to view politics and say to yourself, this isn't a bad spot to lay chalk.
No.
And I think that a lot of people forget about that. People are always looking, even in UFC or any other sport, they say to themselves, oh, you got this random underdog. Conor McGregor's fighting Floyd Mayweather in boxing. How am I supposed to take minus 900, and think that there's value when in reality, he's going to win that fight, 100 times out of 100?
Or something.
That's what I'm saying. So it's even if you want to lay like minus 700 on something,
yes,
it's fine. Because if you really think there's no chance of a candidate winning that state, then it's basically free money.
Yeah. And
I think that's a lost art from what people, when they handicap, is that they only look at the plus side and go, I got to find these attractive underdogs. There's value with favorites, even at huge numbers, because if you think that the odds should be from minus 800 to minus 2,000, you're still picking up a ton of value. Of course, you have to spend a lot of money in order to actually get a decent return on it. But if you think you're going to win like 90-something% of the time, then it's still a solid play in terms of value.
Yeah, I think Georgia at minus 160. I think that's one of those cases.
I was simply asking about Republican Democrat there, but you seem pretty certain it's going to go Republican.
I am. Yeah, I think you've got a better shot at Iowa at plus 135 than you do.
Well, you're looking at some states, for example, like Maine, right? Mm-hmm. Maine's minus 800 Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any chance it goes Republican?
Nope.
I don't.
Nope.
It's minus 800. Like, I don't know what line you could put it at Maine, and you'll just go, that looks about right. Like 2,000?
Yeah,
I still think it's going to go Republican.
There's a lot of 2000s out there, and you shouldn't be afraid of any of them. Illinois is 2000 on the Democrats. Indiana's 2000 on the Republicans.
It's also worth mentioning how many battleground states, or how many non-battleground states actually change.
None. I mean,
Correct.
unless there is going to be, and this is where it's different than handicapping a sporting event, Scott, because this is where your feelings and if you pay attention and what you think is going to happen, where it actually comes into play here. If you think it's going to be a tight election, there's certain moves you can make. If you think it's going to be a Democratic sweep and there's going to be all kinds of passion and votes on the Democratic side, there's moves you can take by taking some of these underdogs here in some of these states. And if you think it's going to be the silent majority for Trump that comes in and blows it out on election day and shows up in droves, then there's moves you can make on the Republican side as well. So it's
for example, just to throw it out there, we're talking about non-battleground states. You have New York and California are both minus 2,000 to vote Democrat.
Right.
There's no way they're voting Republican. You could just slam you could mortgage your house and slam it on, and it's free money.
Yes, that's free money. If you have the bank account to lay that kind of chalk, you absolutely.
You're selling blood, you're donating a kidney or two. Yeah, you're fine. Just unload the Briggs truck. You're gonna win.
Montana is another one at minus 2,000.
That's what I'm saying. So even if you look at these numbers and say, I only want to play the attractive underdog, why? You basically have a sure thing just sitting there at any odds you want, and you can just say to yourself, why wouldn't I not just capitalize it? Like, let's just say hypothetically that you throw in a pretty hefty coin there on California. Now, I'm looking at Bet Online. The max bet for Bet Online for California is $20,000.
Right.
If you win, you pick up a free $1,000.
Right.
I feel like they're just handing you $1,000.
Almost no risk.
Because California is not going Republican under any circumstance. So you can just collect your $1,000 and make it rain because you're not losing that money.
Well, and I'll give you a better example of that is my home state of Missouri, Scott. The Democrats have done no campaigning here. They spent no money on ads. They have conceded to the Republicans, and you can get Republican taking Missouri at minus 1,500. That's again, that's like you said, that's free money right there.
Correct. So I know that you're going to say to yourself, well, that's not handicapping because you're taking minus 1,000 favorites and minus whatever. That's not the point. The point we're trying to say is that if it's minus 2,000 when it should be minus 10,000, you're still picking up value. And California, whether or not you are a Republican in California or whether or not you're a Republican in general, I think you'll agree that the Democrats win California pretty much every election, and it's not even close.
Yeah, California has not gone Republican since 1988 when they voted for Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I feel like Reagan's usually the last.
Was a native son to California and everything. So,
so that's an example. If you have $20,000 and you're not afraid of throwing it in on offshore accounts, etc., enjoy your $1,000.
Yep. A lot of opportunity like that around. So that pretty much covers what I had as far as the presidential election goes.
Did
Scott,
you have anything else you wanted to add from
I
that?
do.
Because I feel like that the huge odds favorites, a lot of people aren't going to talk about, but I think they are worth talking about because even if you have to throw out 20,000, if I told you that you could give $20,000 and you were guaranteed to win an extra $1,000, would you do it?
Of course,
This is probably because you're literally just being handed a free $1,000.
that's a 5% return on your money. That's better than you're going to make in the stock market over a short period of time. It's yeah.
Correct. So I think the biggest risk in terms of this is trusting an offshore book.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest risk attached to it because the bet itself is going to cash pretty much 100% of the time.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of ground-based casinos in America have presidential odds.
That's what I'm saying. So usually you're kind of forced to go offshore,
Yes,
which
you are forced
can
to
scare off a lot of people, especially as BetOnline had that
Mm-hmm.
cyber attack, whatever, that happened a couple weeks ago.
Right.
But I'm just saying, if you're not afraid of actually risking money by putting it into an offshore account, because
Right.
I'm sure most of you already have an offshore account, if you're not afraid of doing that and you have the bankroll, enjoy your free $1,000 because New York and California, and you even mentioned Missouri at minus 1,500.
Right.
I feel like those outcomes are kind of locks, and nobody is talking about them.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, everybody just kind of writes it off looking for value. So there's absolutely, yeah. If you take a NASCAR race and you take Eric Almirola at minus 1,500 or whatever, he could win. You could actually get paid. But this is not going to, there's very few circumstances where.
No, it's the equivalent of like a heads-up matchup between me and what am I going to think of? Kevin Harvick in a NASCAR race.
Right.
And I've never gone like buying a car, like a stock car before. I'm
You're
not going
never
to win, but then somebody's going to go, 12-1. That's no, it's not. Should be 2,000 to 1. I'll still lose.
Out of 20 races, you're not going to win any of them. Ever.
Correct. So it's a matter of people are going to go, the odds are on the underdog. No, just people look for a get-rich-quick scheme when it comes to betting. That's not how it works.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works at all. So you have any other thoughts?
So yeah, that's my brief rant on the huge favorites and how they actually provide more value than people think.
All right, very good. You got any more thoughts on the presidential election?
Well, I feel like based on the current odds, I think there is value on Biden at minus 200. I think the line should be higher, if I'm being honest, based on everything that I've heard. Now, if you are voting for Trump, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to say anything about that. But based on just, I'd say, the political climate and the projections, etc., I think 200 is a little bit short. I think 240 should be around where it could be. Plus, you also have to wonder, live betting elections is also a thing. If you take 200 early, I think you're better off to find Biden in play, I don't know, minus 1,000 at some point. So you can buy back on Trump and find a middle.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. And I would also advise you, if you want to play Trump right now, I would advise you to find one of the 100-point markets. Use Predicted, although they don't allow huge bets, but you can find value on Trump. Like I said, somewhere around the 32, 34 cents. So you're getting just about 2 to 1 on your money. So you're getting plus 200 there if you go through one of those markets. So
we can wait for the live play, which is kind of similar to what you just talked about.
Yep.
And now you get a live bet that. I know some books, mostly in Europe, I believe. So I don't know how common it is in the United States, but I do remember that Paddy Power was one book who had live betting odds for the election while they were still tallying up the votes. So you might be able to find a book here or there, but if you can and you like Trump, you should probably wait for in play.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a couple of Senate races.
Well, I'm just going to ask, though, I'm assuming you agree that you think that the value based on the current line is on Biden?
Yeah, I think
I have to feel that way.
I would want, if I was going to play Trump at this point, I'd want it at 2 to 1.
Yeah, I agree.
I think with the polls the way they are, I know everybody. Oh, the polls in 2016. This is again a more substantial lead that Biden.
And we're not saying that Biden's a lock to win the thing. It isn't the same thing as saying that New York and California are voting Democrat. No. It's not the same thing. No. We're simply saying, based on the lines, I think Trump should be a bigger underdog based on the projections.
I think as we sit right here on Wednesday morning, 6 days out, Scott, I think Trump is a 2 to 1 dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not. I wouldn't make a bet If I were going to make a bet right now, and I've got money all over the place in this, but if I were going to make a bet right now, Biden would be the play at minus 200. I think there's value in those odds. I think you're getting about a 20% overlay right there.
Yeah, I can't really argue that.
Okay, a couple of real quick things here to wrap it up. A couple of
No, I don't really know much about the Senate, so I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Okay, and it's real quick. A couple of dogs that I would take a look at would in the Senate. These are both incumbents, so if there's good Republican turnout, these definitely have a chance of cashing. It's Tom Tillis in North Carolina, and it's Jody Ernst in Iowa. Both of those. Tom Tillis is plus 100 even money right now. Ernst is minus 110. Both prices are good prices on the incumbent. They're currently a little bit behind, but certainly within striking distance. And you never ever count out the incumbent in a Senate race. Now, if you're one of those people that think there's going to be a big red wave, if the Republicans are going to have a great showing, then one of the dogs you might want to take a look at is Collins up in Maine. She's currently behind, but you can catch her at plus 200. She is the incumbent there in Maine. If you think it's going to be, if you think the results are going to lean Republican, if you think the blue wave is coming, if you think the Republicans or you think the Democrats are going to make great progress and turn out the vote, then a couple of blue wave Senate bets you might take a look at is Jamie Harrison in South Carolina. Now he has dipped recently. Lindsey Graham has had a bit of a comeback. He was actually really close to pick him in this one. You can currently get Harrison at plus 225. I think there's value there, and you can get if you wanted to take a big swing for the fences. If you really think Democrats are going to have a great night, you could look at Amy McGrath in Kentucky against Mitch McConnell at plus 625. Most polling data shows that within that race right now within the margin of error. Although these races almost always break for the incumbent. So that's a couple of long shots there, depending on how you think the election is going to go. And only you can make that decision. You know, we'll give you what we got as far as the polls go. But if you follow this stuff, if you keep your eye on it, you probably have a feeling about how the election is going to go, and you should absolutely bet accordingly.
Yeah, now that kind of touches upon how I want to wrap up.
Okay.
Based on how politics is pretty much all speculation leading up to the election, two things. One, don't overreact to some news that breaks because you don't know how accurate it's going to be. Two, obvious stuff, same thing with sports, whatever. Check your sources.
Yes.
If you get fed bad information and you're throwing down a massive bet on an overreaction, and you feel like, or you learn maybe a day later that the information or the intel you got was bad, that's even worse than losing the bet half the time, because that's just something that's preventable, that
Right.
you didn't take the correct measures in order to confirm the accuracy of some claims. So if you see one expert, quote unquote expert in the media, who claims, oh, this state's a lock, this is going to happen, blah, 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 and they have no real base to their claim, and it ends up losing, you might blame the expert, but that's kind of your fault for not actually, researching it yourself.
Yeah, and I have one piece of advice that kind of dovetails with that. Stay off of Twitter. Don't make decisions based on what you see on Twitter, because Twitter represents the extremes on both sides.
Biden posted something that has 150,000 likes. He has to no.
No.
Twitter is the most polarizing platform.
Right.
And if you're gonna, basically the way that I'd see it is that if you want to go Democratic on a state, then you're only going to notice Democrat stuff on the state because you're going to try to use confirmation bias. My advice to you, just try to avoid all polarizing platforms. Try to stick purely to the data, and then try to make an educated opinion on what you think is going to happen, instead of just thinking to yourself, oh, I saw this, so this is going to happen. No, it's not.
If you read a Trump tweet and then check out all the comments, and they're 90% against him. Well, that's who's on Twitter.
Yeah.
That doesn't represent the real pulse of America. So definitely be aware of confirmation bias. That's very good, Scott. And don't try to. And I see this is a thing. If you have a football game, it's kind of a fresh thing going into each and every game. But everybody's got an opinion about what they want to happen in this election. So try to base your bets only on the facts that you have in front of you, not on But if and I know I said earlier, you're gonna have to play it how you think it's going to go. make sure you're using good information in to get good information out. All right. And that's really all I have. That's the election show. That's kind of some of my
that's
thoughts.
how I wanted to wrap up, mostly on a general, I'd say, researching point.
All right, very good. Appreciate everybody watching, everybody that tuned in. Definitely leave us comments. Let us know how you're playing it. Again, I don't want to hear this guy sucks, this guy's great, and I don't none of that. All right, I'm not turning into I don't want to turn it into a political argument for him, but I would like to know how you're playing it. I'd like to know what you think, where you think there's some value out there in this election. So that's it for me. You got any final thoughts?
Not really.
Okay.
Part of me, even though nobody knows what the outcome's going to be, I'm kind of just happy that this whole political wave of people yelling at each other or whatever is finally going to come to a close for a little while.
I think that is the opinion that everyone can agree with. I think no matter what side you're on, I think we're all ready for it to be over. So hopefully it will be over relatively soon after the election. There's talk about counting the ballots and faithless electors, and there's a whole lot of other things to get into. But for right now, we just want it to be over. All right. So appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you hanging in there. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about sports. So I appreciate everyone indulging us here for this one day of the year when we get together and do this. And, of course, if you want to find out more information on this, don't forget to check out, a lot of sites. It's usually where I say winners and whiners. There's a lot of sites out there. You can indulge to your heart's content on what you think the projections will be for this election. So, again, one more time, thanks for watching. Appreciate it for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com. Have a great day. Get your ass out there and vote. Either vote early if you can, vote, but whatever it is, make your voice heard. All right. Don't be lazy. Go participate in democracy. Okay. You guys take care. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. We'll be talking a little football, baby, tomorrow on Today in Sports Betting. Take care, everyone.